A'ja Wilson, the best player in the W. Been the best player in the W for the last half decade. Continues to be the best player in the W and has no signs of slowing down. The talk of Caitlin and the talk of Paige, let's talk about them real quick.
This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. My name is Keenan, and I am solo today. I am solo because I am breaking down the WNBA season. We're going to talk awards. We are going to talk the playoffs. We are going to talk about just everything going on in the WNBA today. Typically, I have my brother Kyle here, but today we are not doing that. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all the great stuff that we have coming for you. A bunch of NFL talk during the season, a bunch of NBA talk coming up. We'll talk a touch, maybe a little bit, ambition on the MLB, and then we definitely will talk UFC, battle rap. We talk a lot of stuff because of the fact that we are very well versed in the culture of today. But right now, we got to talk WNBA because the WNBA season was electric this year. Unfortunately, Caitlin Clark got injured. She's not in the playoffs right now. We were really hoping for that. And obviously, the coverage of the WNBA has not caught up to what I think the popularity of the WNBA actually is. You don't see it really leading topics on ESPN First Takes and things like that. You get segments, you get parts of the day that talk about it. The WNBA playoffs will be talked about, but obviously it's not that hard-hitting that the NFL is where you could talk about it every day. It's not up there with peak NBA talk where you're going to talk about it every day. So unfortunately they don't, but so much to talk about here. And let's talk about the MVP race, which really comes down to these two. I want to shout out Kelsey Mitchell. She had a phenomenal year, being able to put that Indiana Fever team on her back at times. Her, Aaliyah Boston, and the depth that you had there. They had, obviously, Sophie Cunningham, who unfortunately got injured. Caitlin Clark, unfortunately injured. You still have Lexi Hull. You lose a couple pieces over the offseason, but you do rearrange the roster. That DeWanna Bonner thing during the season, whatever. Kelsey Mitchell was able to put that team on her back, carry them into the playoffs along with Leah Boston, and putting themselves on top in the playoffs now that they're in a 1-1 series after winning Game 2 against the Atlanta Dream. And shout out to Alyssa Thomas, who early on in the year, Osatu Sabally, they didn't have Kalia Copper for the beginning portion of the season, but still Alyssa Thomas is out there putting up triple doubles left and right, really showcasing why she is one of the 5 best players in the WNBA, bar none, and had a great season. But it comes down to these two ladies. Comes down to these two women, I should say. I don't even want to say ladies. These women. These women who have put the WNBA on their back this season. A'ja's done it for the last few, and that's been with Stewie. Napheesa said, hey, I know you went to UConn, I did too. Well, let me hop in. Let me show you guys what I can do. Last year, people were surprised with what the Minnesota Lynx were able to put together, get to the finals, and have maybe the best finals, if not one of the most electric finals of all time. The Sabrina Ionescu shot in Game 3, that step back, and hits the Ryan Ruocco call. And then obviously a super competitive Game 5 where Napheesa Collier looked like the best player on the floor, and she carried that all the way into this season. But we're starting with A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson, the best player in the W. Been the best player in the W for the last half decade. Continues to be the best player in the W and has no signs of slowing down. 23 points a game, led all the WNBA. Top 5 in rebounds. 3 assists a game. One of the leaders for Defensive Player of the Year. And the game that really spearheaded all of this MVP conversation, because really Napheesa should have just been on should have been there on the page. But it's A'ja. Why? August 2nd. 111-58, I believe. Napheesa dog walks A'ja and the Aces. From that point on, the Aces have lost one time, and that was last night when they played the Seattle Storm in a must-win playoff game. They ran the table for the rest of the regular season. And A'ja was putting up 30s left and right. She had the classic 30-20 game for the first time in WNBA history. She was going nuts. And this team had a lot of change over the last few years. Think a few years back. Kelsey Plum, You've got Kelsey Plum, you've got Jackie Young, you've got Chelsea Gray, you've got Asia Wilson, you've got Candace Parker. You have then players like Alicia Clark and then Sydney Colson on those rosters to get the depth. So this team now doesn't have that same depth, or they didn't have that same depth and same camaraderie early on this season, which is where you start to go down. Last year they only won 27 games. This year they got back up to 30 because they went on this massive win streak towards the end of the season. But you start the season off and you have, okay, Chelsea Gray. A couple years ago, she had an injury. She looked really good and Unrivaled. She comes back. She's still finding her footing within the WNBA landscape because that's clearly 3-on-3 in a shorter court. Now she's getting the 5-on-5 back. Jackie Young is Jackie Young. She's just one of the most consistent players in the WNBA. You don't have Kelsey Plum anymore, who has been kind of a glue point of that team because she was really there from the inception back when it was in San Antonio before they moved. So, Kelsey Plum was there. You now have Jewel Lloyd. Jewel Lloyd's a different player than Kelsey Plum. She's more of a scorer. Kelsey Plum can score. Both of them are very high-level scorers, but she's more of a shooter, more of an outside presence. As Kelsey can shoot, she really can do a little bit of everything, but the way they play defense is a little bit different. You're going to think of Jewel more as an offensive player. Kelsey's kind of a two-way because she'd really turned herself into a defensive player with the way that she was utilized on that team. And Jewel's not the ball handler, a facilitator, I should say, that Kelsey is. Kelsey really can orchestrate an offense. Jewel has the ability to, and she had to in Seattle, but that is not her strong point. She is more of a true shooting guard, where Kelsey can play more of a combo guard. So you have to add that in. And you add that in, you have to change things around on this roster. Instead, you don't have as much depth, so you get a player like Aaliyah Nye. I think they took her 13th overall in the draft, or roughly around that point this year in the draft. Shooter out of Alabama, who is a high-level shooter. But these players need to develop, and these players need to really integrate themselves with the roster. Okay, that happens. And then this team just clicked, and it clicked because Asia Wilson said, I am done being bad. I'm going to be the best player in the league. And they got embarrassed, and they had to get embarrassed to do that. And Asia's been the best player since that. But over the totality of the season, it's really been Napheesa Collier who has been the best player in the league. 23 points a game, about second in the WNBA, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, but she shot 53, 40, 90. Asia was up there, 50, 42.5, and 85.5. But 50, 40, 90, that doesn't happen, and that's from a big, which is just crazy how efficiency big are. These are the two best defensive players in the league, too. So it's not like you can lean like, oh, one's really much better on defense than the other one. These are the two best defenders in the league. It comes down to this for me. The Lynx were 5-2 without Napheesa this year, and that hurts her case. You had the game at the end of the season where Asia drastically outplayed Napheesa. And the Aces were able to get to the 2 seed and only be 4 games back from the Minnesota Lynx. Because of all that, I think Asia is going to take home her 4th MVP and go back-to-back, I believe, for the first time since Cynthia Cooper did it back in the first 2 years of the WNBA. Could be wrong. There could be one in between, I believe, since Cynthia Cooper. If they gave it to Napheesa, do I have a problem with it? No. Do I think Napheesa wins it if she doesn't get injured? I do. I think it's the same situation as if Joel Embiid a couple years back would have won MVP, or Jalen Hurts a few years back would have won it. Patrick Mahomes. There's players who have been injured, different sports, cross sports, that would have won MVPs if they didn't get injured during that season for a short portion of time, and unfortunately she did. Napheesa, that is, and Asia took advantage of it. I think that Asia Wilson is going to be the 2025 WNBA MVP. I think she well deserves it. I would be perfectly fine with co-MVPs. I think if they went that route, I would actually maybe be happy because I think Napheesa deserves it too. She's had a very historic season. I think that Napheesa deserves it as well. So if they went co, I would be happiest with that. I do think, though, that they're going to be going with Asia Wilson for the 2025 MVP. Next, we're going to move on real quick, but I just want to say we'll know this very soon. We'll know the most valuable player, actually, Friday. They'll get the Defensive Player of the Year tomorrow. Friday, we'll get the most valuable player. Then we'll get... Wait, hold on. Sorry, they'll ask the finalist for most valuable player. Who do I think the 5th one will be? Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Sorry. Asia, Alyssa, Napheesa, Kelsey, not in that order, And then fifth, maybe Sabrina, maybe? I don't know who's going to be fifth. That's actually going to be really interesting. I wonder who they're going to get at fifth. I really wonder who they're going to get. Maybe Alicia Gray. Actually, maybe Alicia Gray is probably my bet for fifth. It'll be Alicia Gray. And we'll get sixth player of the year. We'll get most valuable player there coming up on Sunday. So we'll know here in short order who is going to be the most valuable player. Next, shout out to Natalie Nakase. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But shout out for winning Coach of the Year. It is well deserved. The first ever expansion team in year one to make it to the playoffs. They made it in as the 8th seed. They're playing the Minnesota Lynx right now in the series. They're down 1-0. Game 2 will be tonight. Hopefully they're able to pull one out. Unfortunately, it's not going to be at Chase Center because they booked it for basketball, which I think is crazy. But the thing about this team where you know it was how she coached was when you go through the stats of this team, there are certain stats that stick out. Worst in shooting percentage. These stick out in bad ways, but you'll get where I'm going. Bottom 3 3-point percentage. Top 4 in turnovers. Second to last in assists. So, this team wasn't great at protecting the ball, wasn't great at scoring the ball. Those are the things that typically take talent. Obviously, an unselfish nature does not take talent to have to do, but being a really good passer, people neglect that. It's extremely talented. Jokic is an extremely talented just passer alone, of course. I said talk to high. But like Chris Paul, John Stockton, all the Sue Bird, if we're going WNBA standards, Paige Bueckers, Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas, all of these players are extremely talented players and it comes down to passing. So how did this team get to 23 wins when a lot of people thought they'd be a bottom 3 team because they literally got this 8th or worse players on every team, or everyone who valued, they're like, okay, we have 0-7, we're keeping them, you guys can pick from this. They did it because they were top 3 in field goal percentage, or free throw percentage, top 4 in rebounding, and they were 3rd in defensive rating. Best opponents in the paint. So essentially, they were like, hey, we don't have the talent. We are going to concede the talent gap every single game we go into. But what we're going to do is we're going to work harder than you in the effort stats. And the stats we can control, like free throws, the empty, no one around us, we're going to be good at those. We are going to control the effort and control the pace of the game. We're going to make this a slog. And then in the fourth quarter, we're going to have a girl that we're going to talk about in a moment who can control the pace of things and get us into our sets that we can at least be semi-efficient down the stretch. Because that's all we need. We need to be able to execute late, and that is what they did. Shout out to the Golden State Valkyries. Amazing atmosphere there at the Chase Center. They very well deserve it. And I think that with the WNBA expansion obviously continuing to grow, you have the collective bargaining agreement. Hopefully it's not going to be a delay on the season. But with how the WNBA is moving, you're going to have stars in the next couple years that want to be over in that atmosphere. They're going to want to be there. You get to be around players like Steph. You get to be around that organization. You're building a great culture, that great fan base. You're really getting that Chase Center feel. It's not Oracle, but you know what? They're trying to build that kind of Oracle feel for the Valkyries, and there's nothing more you could love for it. And we were talking about a Valkyries player, and it happens to be Veronica Burton down the stretch in these games, and she took home Most Improved Player of the Year. Shout out to Veronica Burton this year for this. 11.9 points, 4.4 rebounds, 6.0 assists. She got the most opportunity that she's ever gotten, playing 32-ish minutes a game roughly this year, when last year she was only playing 19, averaging 3 points a game. But this is also not just a oh, she inflated her minutes, so the numbers inflated. Because if you go to her per 36 on every year, it would have been 8.8 points a game last year. It would have been 14.4 this year. So there was actually a very much of an increase in role and an increase of play from Veronica Burton. She led her team in fourth quarter scoring and was and led in fourth quarter assist. She had 8 games of 10-plus assists, no more games than 5 turnovers. I noticed that 5 turnovers because in the WNBA, if you pay attention, a lot of players get high number of turnovers, but she really wasn't turning the ball over at a high rate, but she was assisting the ball at an extremely high rate. 38.7% from the floor. That is not low, but it's low. So, obviously, your guards in the NBA are going to be 44% baseline. This is kind of your baseline for guards in the WNBA. I think it's the height, the fact that you're going to have, where you have to kind of shoot from. The 34.5% from three is actually pretty decent, and then the 87 from the line, or 88 from the line, pretty much is very good. 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, ranked top 5 in the league. So, shout out to Veronica Burton for winning the most improved player of the year. It was well deserved. There was other players that were in nominations for it, but well deserved for Veronica Burton. And let's get to my favorite award, because we get to my favorite player. Shout out to Veronica Burton, but Paige Bueckers has been my favorite player since 2019. She was in high school at that point when I started. She's my favorite player of all time, eclipsing Maya Moore the more that I watch her. I've been watching the WNBA for a long period of time now. I've had WNBA League Pass for a long period of time. My fandom did not start when Caitlin Clark came in. I understand that that's where a lot of fandom came in, and listen, that's not a problem, because here's the thing. She brought you here, and now you get to see the greatness. If you just get an opportunity because someone's like, hey, let me bring you to this party. The popular kid at school's like, hey, let me bring you to this party. And you're like, okay, I've never really heard of this party before. Let me go. And then you go and you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of cool people. There's a lot of great scenery. It's a great environment. It's not a problem. You're not hating on the person like, oh, you're only there because of this person. Yeah, so what? I didn't know about it. Now I do, and now I get to enjoy it. And we really got to enjoy Paige Bueckers this season, putting up 19.2 points, 3.9 rebounds, 5.4 assists, only 2 turnovers, shooting 47.7% from the floor, 33.1 from 3, 88.8 from the line. She is going to be a 50-40-90 member in her career. She's 47.7% from a guard of this high a volume is insane. That is insane WNBA work. She had 1 game under 10 points this season, 30-plus straight games of 10 or more, which is third most all-time for a rookie. Top 5 in points, top 9 in steals, top 10 in assists. Only, I think, one of 2 players this year that was top 10 in points, steals, and assists, are all top 10, at least all of them. Top 4 shooting percentage for a guard. Top 10 assist-to-turnover ratio for anyone who played 15 minutes or more. I mean, there's not much that you can say. I can run through more accolades, but we're going to run through these really quick. Rookie scoring leader. August Player of the Month. July Player of the Month. June Player of the Month. First player in WNBA history to have 40-plus in a game while shooting 80% from the field. Scored the most points by a WNBA rookie in the game, 44. Fastest rookie in the WNBA to secure 500 points and 100 assists. Fastest to 200 points, 50 rebounds, 50 assists. It's 2025 WNBA All-Star, doesn't say starter. Number 1 overall pick in the draft. And that is just a few of the accolades that Paige Bueckers decided to take home this year on a Dallas Wings team that I thought had the potential to be a sneaky playoff team. I thought that they would have the season that the Golden State Valkyries had, and the Valkyries have the season that the Wings had record-wise. But it didn't work out that way. They were without Arike Ogunbowale, for a long period of time. Isaiah James obviously was in and out. J.J. Quinterly had to miss time during the season. They had Nalissa Smith, and they got rid of Nalissa Smith. There was transitions. Leah Rue played well for this team this year. There was a lot of things going on with this Dallas Wings roster. They had a way that they needed to win. They got to close games. They were playing teams tough. They just weren't able to execute down the stretch. And really, really excited to see what they do in the offseason. They need to go get themselves a big. They need to get themselves some versatility around Paige. They need to get themselves another true scorer. I wonder what Arike is going to do in the offseason, if she's going to come back or if she's going to leave. This is Paige's team now officially. Paige is a top 10 player in the WNBA. She is going to make WNBA All-Second Team. That is my prediction. And let's break it down here. She very well could make WNBA first team statistically. I just think when it comes to it, the wins, Alicia Gray is probably going to get the nod over her. But if she doesn't, I think that she's going to be right there. I think she will be on some ballots for being the 5th best women's basketball player this year. And, I mean, it's hard not to compare Caitlin to Paige. They're in the same draft class, or recruiting class in 2020. Obviously, Caitlin came out a year early. Paige Bueckers had the torn ACL. She had the extra year of eligibility of that for COVID. She stayed. I think that was the proper move for her. I mean, because then she gets her national championship that she needs, puts up 40 in a playoff, in a March Madness game. Only UConn player to ever do that. Puts up 30, then 40, then over 30. She did things that no other UConn player in the history of UConn had done, and that's Napheesa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Maya Moore, Tina Charles, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. We can keep going. Rebecca Loeb. We can keep going on. We know the list of UConn players. That is the premier program because Gino has made it that. But the talk of Caitlin and the talk of Paige, let's talk about them real quick. This is a comparison of their 2 rookie years. Both 19.2 points per game. Caitlin averaged more rebounds and more assists. 3 more assists, about 2 more rebounds. Paige more steals. Caitlin a little bit more blocks. They both don't block many shots. The assist-to-turnover ratio, Paige is better in that aspect by a decent margin. Shot better from the floor, Paige did. Caitlin shot better from the 3 and from the free throw line. Both of these two had phenomenal rookie seasons. Both of these two are top 10 players in the game. They both have the same impacts on the game. I just think the roster in Indiana was better than the roster in Dallas for sure. If you drop this exact Paige on that team last year, they make the playoffs. Because you get Rookie of the Year Leah Boston. You get Kelsey Mitchell, one of the best collegiate scorers to ever do it. You get these people, perennial all-star, a person who also, actually, Kelsey Mitchell might be the 5th one for, oh no, she was in my MVP conversation already, so no, Kelsey Mitchell is going to be in the MVP conversation, probably a finalist. You drop Paige into that situation, they're there. All Paige knows how to do is win the same way Caitlin does. Caitlin's better when you have a heliocentric offense around her, but Paige also raises your floor. These two are going to be the Magic and Bird of the WNBA for a while. I know that we were making that into the Angel and Caitlin aspect of it, and that's kind of what that was when it brings to a popularity sense. But this is going to be the rivalry. So not even Magic and Bird just because it was the rivalry and it's young. It might be the LeBron-Steph kind of rivalry we saw over the last few years where you're like, oh, wow, these players are going back at it. Or what KD and LeBron was supposed to be for a long period of time, but KD wasn't able to get to the finals quite often by himself, so he obviously went to Golden State. That's a whole other conversation. The rivalry that these players are going to have is going to be so surreal for the next 15 years. And then in 2028, when we get to watch them take the Olympic backcourt with those two, Napheesa, Asia, and insert probably Brianna Stewart or other players, it's going to be such electric basketball. And then you've got Juju Watkins coming down the pipeline in a couple years. Lauren Betts is coming in. Flau'jae Johnson's coming in. AZ Fudd's coming in. There's so many players coming in. And you're just going to see these players develop more and more because now young girls are going to be like, oh, I want to be like that one. Oh, let me be like Paige. Oh, let me be like Caitlin. Oh, let me be like Asia. Oh, let me be like Sabrina. You're getting these signature shoes out. You're getting all of this stuff out now. So you're going to just see the players get better and better and better. You have to think back in the 60s and 70s, everyone's like, oh, they're playing against farmers and blah, blah, blah. It's because they couldn't make a living off of basketball, so they had other jobs to do. You're telling Jerry West had every day to play basketball. Jerry West would be Jerry West in any era. Why? Because Jerry West is super good at basketball. He's super talented. He could be Jerry West in any era if you give him the modern medicine, the modern time, AAU, all of that. And now these women are actually thinking, oh, wait, I like 6? I can really just be in the WNBA? And I can go for it? It's going to be great to see. It really is going to be great to see. But let's get into the playoffs here real quick. The playoffs, it's sad that Caitlin's not there in Indiana, but otherwise the playoffs couldn't get you anything else that you would want for. The Golden State Valkyries there at 8. I would have been happy with 3 teams at 8. Obviously, I wanted the Wings there to see Paige in the playoffs, but that wasn't realistically going to happen this year. The LA Sparks, I would have loved to see in that position. Rickea Jackson had a phenomenal second season. She really turned it up towards the back half of the season. Kelsey Plum was starting to really get things going there. Cameron Brink coming back from the injury halfway through the season. She was starting to work her way in. De'Erica Hamby on that roster as well. That's going to be a team here next year when they get all their horses to pieces there and they get a couple of chances to add in the offseason. That's going to be a team to watch out for. But I also would have loved to see the Washington Mystics in that situation. Sonia Citron, second in Rookie of the Year to me. Kiki Iriafin had another great rookie season. You have Georgia Amore, who's going to be in that position now. Shakira Austin played very well for that team. So there was some teams in that position, and they're going to get beat by the Minnesota Lynx. It didn't really make a difference because the Minnesota Lynx are the best team in the league. The Phoenix Mercury, you got a big 3 in Satu Sabally, Kalia Copper. I almost said Napheesa Collier. Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas. You got a big 3 that can match any big 3 in the entirety of the WNBA. But on the other side, if there's a big 3 that's going to match them, it is going to be Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones, and Brianna Stewart, who looks like she should be okay to play in Game 2. I know she hurt her knee in Game 1. Looks like she should be able to play in Game 2. Then you've got the Las Vegas Aces versus the Seattle Storm. That's been a good series so far. Obviously, we talked about Asia and how great she is. You've got the Seattle Storm, Nneka Ogwumike. She can really shoot it from the outside now. She has added that to her game with being one of the most efficient post players, going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Skylar Diggins, who's also played great this season. Dominique Malonga, who has come along. Erica Wheeler, who has put really nice into that role, the starting role. The Storm get Brittany Sykes to help with their scoring. I think that the Storm are better than a 7 seed, but I unfortunately think they ran into a Aces team that's too hot right now. They're going to be in a pivotal Game 3, and that's a veteran squad that could get that win, but Asia Wilson's too good right now. I think they're going to eclipse the Seattle Storm. And then you got the Dream versus the Fever, and the Fever might be in a fever dream having to go back to Atlanta for Game 3. That's going to be a difficult place to play in an environment where you have Ryan Howard, who is a bucket. You've got Alicia Gray, who has played phenomenal this season. Breonna Jones, Brittany Griner. I think that Atlanta team is going to have a little bit too much firepower for the Indiana Fever, though the Indiana Fever have enough, especially if Kelsey puts on one of those master classes that she can put on. I do think that there's a possibility they could win, but I'm leaning the Atlanta Dream in this game. So I think in the second round, we're going to get the Minnesota Lynx, the Las Vegas Aces, the Atlanta Dream, and I'm going to go back to that Liberty and Mercury series because I really didn't know at the time. I'm going to lead the championship medal of the New York Liberty are going to get past the Phoenix Mercury. You saw it in that overtime. I think that New York's going to be live and ready. I'm leaning the Liberty to go win, and you're going to get a finals rematch in the second round. The Minnesota Lynx versus the New York Liberty. And then you're going to get the Aces versus the Dream. I think in a great series, in a 5-game series, you're going to get the Minnesota Lynx getting past the New York Liberty the same way that the New York Liberty got past the Aces the year after they lost to them in the finals. I think you're going to have the same thing because the Minnesota Lynx match up very well with the New York Liberty. They have the best player in the league. You add Dejanay Carrington to that team to go along with Napheesa Heidemann off the bench, to go along with Courtney Williams, to go on with Alana Smith, Bridget Carlton. This team just has a little bit too much for the New York Liberty right now. The way they're playing, they're a little banged up. They're not at full strength, and you have to be at full strength to beat this Minnesota Lynx team in a series. I think the Lynx are going to get to the finals. They're going to face the Aces in the finals. I think the Dream are a great season. They had a great season, but A'ja Wilson's going to be too much for them because you still have to remember you've got Jackie Young, you've got Chelsea Gray, you've got Jewel Lloyd, you've also got Kia Stokes off the bench, Aaliyah Nye. You've got players on that team. So you're going to get an Aces and Lynx finals. You're going to get the two best players in the finals against each other. This is what you ask for. This is what you want. The two best players going head-to-head in the finals. And it's going to be Napheesa Collier. A'ja's going to win the battle. Napheesa's going to win the war. A'ja's going to walk into that series holding the MVP trophy, winning the last two, winning 4 of the last 6. She's going to have them. And Napheesa's going to look across and be like, I'm going to win an MVP one day. But right now, we just got to the finals and lost. And in the first ever 7-game series battling for it, we are going to go 7 with the Aces. And we are going to win a Game 7 in Minnesota. This is why we're the best team this year. They're going to win Game 7 and in Minnesota to win the championship. I've got the Aces losing to the Minnesota Lynx in 7. I've got the Minnesota Lynx beating the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA Finals. Napheesa Collier is going to be holding up that Finals MVP trophy, and they're going to ask her, would you have preferred that MVP trophy or that Finals MVP trophy? And she's going to laugh, and she's going to say, this one's pretty good. She's a winner. She won at UConn. She's going to win again. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Warner Brothas Podcast. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you guys for sure. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, grow with us here. And if you want more WNBA content from me, let me know. I love talking about the WNBA. It's something that I've watched for a long time now, and I really enjoy it. So let me know if you want me to talk more WNBA. This was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Appreciate all of you guys, and I'll be seeing all of you guys again very soon.